So welcome everybody. This is our annual webinar where you get the opportunity to ask our award judges for any questions that you may have about the process, about what judges are looking for, how to make a standout application. So I will introduce our judges in a moment. Firstly, I'll introduce myself as well. I haven't done that. So I'm Katie Steingold. I'm the events manager here at the CQI, and have been looking after the awards here for the past 4 years. So the chances are, if you get in touch with us about anything awards related, it will either be myself or my brilliant events coordinator, Leslie, who you will hear back from. So yes, so that is who we are. We will get started. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly run through this year's categories before we get started with the Q&A. So we have got 8 categories this year, down from 9 last year, and I'll explain more about that in a moment. And a couple of changes to this year's criteria. So to get started, we have the Emerging Talent Award, which is one of our kind of flagship awards, has been running since the awards began. We have made a slight change to the Emerging Talent Award this year, and I know that some of you have indicated that you're here to find out about that. So the change for that award, the categories say exactly the same, the criteria says exactly the same, but we have reduced the eligibility window to people who are now within the first 3 years of their quality career, whereas previously it was the first 5 years. So we brought that down slightly due to the number of entries that has been growing year on year on year. And also we found that some of the entries that are kind of producing really, really strong applications aren't really what the judges would consider to be emerging within their career. We found that there's been a real growth in kind of people who now have line management responsibilities, and that's not really in the spirit of the award. So we've reduced that window slightly to really hone in on the fact that we're looking for people who have made a huge impact in the first few years of their quality career and are real stars for the future. So that's the change to that one. We then have Quality Professional of the Year, which is our other individual award. No changes to the criteria there. You must be a chartered member or a chartered fellow of the CQI to be eligible for that award. So please make sure that that is the grade that you're at if you want to submit an entry to that category. We have the Digital Transformation Award, which was previously Digital Innovation. We've revised the criteria slightly for that to reflect the stories that we're trying to tell from the quality profession and bring it more in line to Quality 4.0 principles. I won't talk too much to that because we do have our head judge of the digital transformation panel here, so she can explain a little bit more about the thinking behind that later. Then we have Developing Quality Talent, which was new for last year and is returning again for this year. We had a really, really strong cohort and entries last year, so we're hoping to find more companies and teams who are doing really great stuff to develop talent within the profession. And then, of course, our 2 classic big ones, the Quality Team of the Year, Quality Organisation of the Year, which again have been staples in our awards programme since the beginning and are always fantastic showcases of the profession. Finally, I know not many people were here to find out about the Volunteering Impact Award, but if you are a volunteer or you're part of a team of volunteers and you're doing amazing things and you want to be shouting about it, please do consider applying for that one. And then we have the Outstanding Contribution to Quality Management Practice, which isn't open to public entries and is decided by the CQI exec and then the panel of previous winners. So that is those. And I will then just also quickly remind you of the deadlines. So as you know, awards are already open. That's why you're here. The deadline for entries is the 30th of January. So we have plenty of time, although that will come around far quicker than any of us care to imagine. But 30th of January, and that is at midnight GMT. And that's, the portal will allow that, adjust that to whatever time zone you are in. We then will have our first round of judging, which will take place throughout February, and that is where our judges look at your written submissions and they score them, and then they will make a shortlist. We will then invite the shortlist to interview. The shortlist becomes our finalists, and the finalist interviews will take place throughout March, and they will be online interviews on either Teams or Zoom. And then the winners are announced at Quality Live, which this year will be on the 25th of June. Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing there. I'm going to invite our judges to pop their cameras on and their microphones so that we can get into the good stuff. Lovely, thank you all so much. What I will also say is we have two boxes at the bottom. There is the chat box, we have the Q&A box. If you've got a question that you would like us to pop to the judges, please pop it into the Q&A box. Makes it easier for us to keep track of what questions are being asked and so on and so forth. So make sure that you pop them there so that we make sure that we see them. Okay, so I think that's enough from me for a moment. So I'm going to hand over to our judges to introduce themselves. So we'll just work our way around the screen and we will start with you, please, Kate.
Good afternoon. Fantastic to be joining you today. My name's Kate Smith. I am founder of Capella Associates, an apprenticeship training provider that was part of the development of the new apprenticeship standards, new as they were in 2018, for quality and improvement, and we've been delivering those ever since. I'm also a managing partner at Process Management International, who acquired Capella about 2 years ago. Capella were winners of the Quality Organisation of the Year award in 2020, and I've been judging for the last 4 years, 3 years on the Quality Organisation of the Year panel, and last year on Emerging Talent, which was great fun, and really looking forward to answering the questions this afternoon. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you, Kate. Sherif?
Thanks, Kathy. And my name is Sherif Nasser. I am the founder of Next Generation Institute for Construction Excellence, and I'm a fellow to the Chartered Quality Institute from 2020. I have 25 experience in construction industry, and I'm a public speaker. And my preferred title that I like really to promote it is called Organization Doctor, which is some kind of new like terminologies. I was a judge for the Quality Team Award last year, and I'm really welcoming any questions for anyone who would like to pursue this award for this year.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. And Victoria.
So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from the world. I can see that we've probably got a few different time zones. So yeah, thank you for joining us and listening to the judges. So my name's Victoria. I'm Head of Change and Transformation at leading temporary works provider, mainly in the UK, maybe higher. I'm a fellow of the CQI, and I've been on the judging panel for the Digital Innovation as Was category for the last few years, and had the privilege of being the head judge for that award category last year. So looking forward to your questions today.
Fab, thank you all so much. So let's get started then with the first question. This is quite broad, so let's see where we get to with it. So all of you are experienced judges, some of you multiple years, some of you multiple categories. In your experience of judging, what is the key thing that makes an application stand out? So what can an applicant include that makes you want to find out more about an individual, a project, an initiative, an organisation? What is the magic? That I don't want to use the term the X factor because I think that's been hijacked, but what is the thing that really makes it stand out to you? Sherif, let's come to you first.
Yes, thanks, Kathy. I would like to summarize my answer in acronym called CAPA, because CAPA is quite famous to all of us. And the first letter, which is C, for clarity. If you have your application is very clear, that's the first ground rules. So you need to address each criteria. It's been already equal grades, whether you have the approach and you have the results. So you need to title where is your approach and where is your title in each categories, and make it crystal clear to every judges. The second point, which is A, which is associate. You need to associate whatever you are speaking in your applications with your slides. It needs to be integrated, it needs to be linked together, and then most importantly, it needs to be linked to your performance. I'm talking about the Quality Team Award. The third item, which is B, which is present, not necessarily the executive like quality person to be the one who is delivering the presentations. It needs to be best presenter, because communications is very important and very key. You might have done a wonderful job, but will not be able to communicate it to the judges. That is something you need to keep in your mind and not just simply consider it as normal meeting presentations. And you need to do rehearsing before you come and adjust timing and be like in control and in confidence of what you are really talking about. The last item, which is A again, which is avoid appearance culture. You know that what we are looking for a genuine continual improvement cultures. We need to feel really we are original. You are really doing a wonderful job as it's been expected. We all human, and this is what we need to really to feel it, that you have this kind of culture in your pursuit and in your team spread. That's what I can just summarize it in 4 letters. Call it kappa. I just made it in simple terms so you don't miss it, and believe me, this is will make your submissions are completely crystal clear and to the point.
Fantastic, thank you. And obviously the quality profession, we love an acronym, so perfect. Kate, what would you like to add to that?
Two things. One, I would absolutely reinforce the importance of addressing all elements of the question. I've seen many submissions that have done a really good job of the approach and not such a great job of the results of the impact, and that, you know, typically those questions are equally weighted in terms of the judging criteria. So make sure that the response is equally weighted and that you've done a good job of evidencing the impact, the result of whatever action that you've described. That's the first one for me. Second one is think about your story. What's your USP? What's going to make you stand out in terms of the thing that you're applying for, whether it's emerging talent or quality org of the year or whatever it is. But, you know, think about, are there others that would have exactly the same words that I'm putting? Because, you know, the structure of the questions is such that it's very easy to describe. We've got these systems and processes and policies, and but you know, any quality organization has got systems, processes, policies. What is it that's special about your submission? And just kind of having written it, or start with what makes me special, or my submission special, and then double check after you've written it that actually you have got a little bit of something that you think nobody else could have that.
Brilliant, thank you, Kate. And Victoria.
So Sherif and Kate have both said it, and I'll say it again just to show everybody how important it is, but really simply, make sure you are answering the question. An entry really stands out when, as judges, we can very clearly see in your submission how you are answering the question. And I think, like Sherif said, it can be very tempting to put loads of stuff in there about what you're doing, which is brilliant. But if you've kind of gone off on a tangent and you haven't actually answered the question, it then becomes very difficult for the judges to assess your submission against our criteria. So what makes an entry stand out actually is it's really brilliant when the submission is very, very clearly answering the question that's asked. So that's the first one. And then my second one is, you know, being a quality professional, being champions of quality management. You know, we've got a whole section of our profession map around leadership. So what makes an entry stand out for the judges is not just when that your answer is talking about process, but when it's talking about leadership, and that's leadership at all levels. It doesn't mean executive board level. It means how are you being a quality leader? So when your entry talks about leadership, it talks about human skills, it talks about change management and people, bringing people in your organization on that quality journey, whatever it is, that whichever category it is, that really stands out to the judges as well. A bit like what Kate said with story, we don't just want to hear about how you've applied the principles of ISO 9001. We want to hear about what impact it's made, and how you've brought people in your business along that journey with you.
Fantastic, thank you. And actually that leads quite nicely onto a question that's already come through here, which Kate, I'll direct to you if you don't mind. Following on from what you've just said, actually, somebody asking about the emerging talent category, and I know that leadership is an area that has sometimes been slightly weaker in that category, and that's not because there aren't great stories to tell, but it's sometimes about people being afraid to kind of put themselves out there and really champion themselves. And so the question that's come through here is what makes, when you're looking at an emerging talent applicant, what makes you feel that this person is not only improving their organisation, but genuinely improving the lives, it says here, but I think demonstrating impact more broadly of the people they serve. And I guess this is also relevant for people considering applying for Quality Professional of the Year as well.
Sure. In relation to emerging talent, the first thing I would say is to think about what you've done, not what other people have done or that you've been involved in, but what's been your part in that. That doesn't mean you have to lead everything, but what's been the part that you personally have played, and what has been the impact of that. So think about you and make sure that when you write your submission that you're referring to, I have done this and I have achieved that. And that can be a little bit uncomfortable, particularly for Brits who might feel a little reserved in saying, as you say, talking about themselves in that way, but that is essential, because otherwise as judges we're looking and thinking, well, is this what you've done or your line manager or your team? So that would be the first thing I would say. The other one is to think broadly. Emerging talents, some of the best submissions that we saw last year were those where the stories had shown that the applicant had gone way beyond their job description in putting themselves forward, volunteering for things, taking on additional responsibilities, mentoring and supporting others, things that they have done over and above what would normally be expected of somebody in that role. And so think creatively about what you've done or what you could do, because it is only the 1st of December. You've got until the 30th of January. So if there are opportunities that you could grasp hold of or even initiate at this stage, those would be the sorts of things that I think would help your submission to float to the top of the pile.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kate. I've seen a question just pop through in the chat asking about the difference between, or is there any overlap between quality team and quality organisation? So that's quite an interesting one to address. And I think there's also another question, which Sherif, I'll maybe come to you first, and then Kate, perhaps bring you in from a quality organisation perspective. And hopefully that will help to distinguish the overlap. But if it doesn't, then Paul, please do let us know and we can come back to it in more detail. So Sherif, for our team and organisation awards, we've had feedback before that it can be really hard for people to know which aspects to focus on, how to communicate a lot of information in a concise way, how do they pick which parts to kind of really kind of tell the judges, showcase themselves. We don't allow a huge word count. So how would you suggest that entries to these categories prioritise what to include in an entry? So maybe if we can have your perspective from a team, the quality team category, and then Kate, sorry, I'm going to make you work hard today, but Kate, we can ask you from the quality organisation, and then Victoria also from the specialist side of things as well. So Sherif, you can kick that off.
The main thing that, yes, I agree with you that it's really challenging when you have lots of things that you need to present and you have only 6 slides and limited number of wording. But this is also part of the competitions, like how you can select and how you can prioritize what is really matter for you, what you are feeling you proud that you have done really a great job. The main thing that people sometimes fail in is they overcrowd their slides and they put lots of information to the extent that the judges were not really able to understand what's in these presentations. So I would advise one simple graph or one simple diagram can tell you a lot of information in just like one snapshot. And the most important thing also, we are looking for what is new, what is the innovation that you have done. We are just like not normally looking for that. This is a competition between different teams. So what distinguishes you from the others? So that's something absolutely important to keep it in your mind, that you need to minimize the information to the extent that you can be able to present. And if you have additional information and you're being selected for the finalists, That is actually the reason for the interview, to know more about what you have already cascaded, because it dragged our attentions, it made the hook and made us interested to know more about what you have shared with us. So it's not a quantitative, it's a qualitative matter in terms of how you are professionally presenting your case and linking. And this is absolutely important when I'm coming to the quality team award, linking this to the quality team performance, not to the organizations. Because some people, they say that we have won lots of awards here and there, and we are proud of this achievement and this impact. Yeah, this is organizations as a overall. Not, I'm talking about your team itself. You have a specific scope of work, and this scope of work is already being defined, and you need to talk with us within the boundaries where you have the influence and impact.
Lovely. Thank you, Sherif. Kate, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I think having written an entry, successful entry to the Quality Org of the Year and read many, for me, my suggestion would be to pick something that the whole submission can be based around, a sort of lens, if you like, through which the story can be told. For example, the Capella submission was our response to COVID-19. What we had to do, so we were able to, so each of the answers described the approach and the impact through the lens of our response to COVID. I've seen fantastic submissions based on response to a change in business circumstances, perhaps new ownership or reorganisation. It could be through the lens of a project that, a strategically important project, or perhaps through change in interested parties, perhaps legislation or something like that. So rather than trying to describe the entire organization and the way it does everything, to pick a lens that demonstrates that evidence is excellence when it comes to the organization and its approach. So that would be my suggestion. Find a lens through which a story can be told, because it makes it more unique, makes it unique to the organisation, and helps to kind of take it from everything that an organisation does to something that can be quite specific, and then the approach and the results can be framed in that way as an example of the way in which the organisation operates.
Fantastic, thank you. Victoria, I don't know if you've got anything that you want to add to that.
I don't think so. I think Kate's point around, as judges, we really want to see the benefits and results. So make sure you're picking something where you can really demonstrate that. So anything with numbers is great. We want to see how much you've improved something by with numbers. It's brilliant to be able to tell the story around whichever category it is. I think this is across all categories. But it's for the judges, what makes an entry stand out as well is it not just telling that story. We as judges, we kind of have to say, well, prove it. So we're looking for that in your submission. So really, yeah, make sure that you're picking something where you can tell that story and really show the impact of it with your results from a statistical, from a quantitative aspect, as well as the qualitative bit of the story.
Brilliant, thank you. And there's some really great questions coming through, so we'll be working through those as we go along. But Victoria, if we can just stick with you for a moment, because obviously I alluded at the beginning to some of the changes that we've made to the quality now transformation category, and we've actually had a question that's come through which relates quite closely to that. So before we go to that question, I don't know if you want to kind of talk a little bit around how we've tweaked the criteria this year and what we're hoping to then see included in entries to this category that differ slightly from where we've come from.
Yeah, so I think with our 2030 strategy, the CQI, we're in our second phase of that now. So we're really starting to really push the agenda around digitization and digitalization, which is more the pan digital environment across the business. So we really are starting to move on that. If you think of continuous improvement being or improvement being a spectrum where you've got small improvements, small margins at one end, and you've got, real transformative initiatives at the other end, we're starting to on that sliding scale move more towards, I think Kate said it, we're really starting to look for where the innovation comes through. And in terms of the digital aspect, what we've done this year is really started to align to that terminology. The best way to find out what the submission criteria and the critical aspects for is to go onto the awards website, click the learn more, and you'll be able to see the criteria and the questions that are being asked. I don't want to say them here and get some of the terminology wrong.
No,
The best way to find
that.
out from the single source of truth is to, in effect, start a submission. But the real difference is that alignment to Quality 4.0 and the 8 principles, the 8 supporting principles of that. So what we're looking for this year in that criteria is to have specific Quality 4.0 references exampled in the submission. So we've had a lot of submissions over the last few years around, I say transforming loosely, a quality management system from something that's data-based, it's maybe Word documents and Excel documents, into more of a process library or something. This year, we're not really looking for that. We're looking for more of the, like I say, those Quality 4.0 supporting principles. And that does include, there is rapid adaptive learning, there is AI, there is cybernetics, there is big data in there. So there's process and data things, but there's the enabling principles as well. So there's co-creation of value, there's mutual trust and collaboration. So again, we really want to see those human aspects, the leadership and the people aspects coming through more in that integrated Quality 4.0 working definition. So yeah, the criteria as well is trying to balance and what we want to see, as well as referencing the Quality 4.0 principles. And in those principles, there is that balance between, there's the process approach and there's the people approach as well. So we're really wanting to see how both of those match up and align in your submission. We don't want to just see a process that's been digitized and it's been a technology rollout. That's not what this category is about. We're, wanting to see how you have brought the people that are involved in that process and the process performers along that journey of transforming it into a digital environment. So yeah, there you go.
Brilliant. Thank you. And then kind of following on from that, but I think this is something, again, that can apply more broadly. And I'll read the question out and then I'll broaden it and then we can kind of tackle it together. But so the question is, with digital transformation, should the submission focus on something within an organisation that is currently going through a transformation or something that has already transformed? And I know that this is something that has come up before in terms of the window of data, basically, in terms of what we're looking for to support all of the entries, including the examples that Kate and Sherif have given in terms of having a tangible project and telling a story. How far can the data go back? Does it need to be 6 months, a year, 2 years? What does that look like? So Victoria, if we start with you, because the question is specifically about digital transformation, and then Kate and Sherif, if you want to add anything, then feel free to do so.
Yeah, so because we are looking for impact, we're looking for results, we're looking for demonstrable improvement through your digital transformation journey, we are definitely looking for something that you have already transformed. But if it's part of a multi-phase, because these things don't happen overnight, right? They are 18-month, 2-year programs normally for an organizational digital transformation initiative or project. Yes, we expect that there might be some kind of roadmap that's in the submission referenced, or there may be phases, but we definitely want to see part of that has transformed so that you are able to talk about the improved results and the benefits. It definitely, if you're still on that journey, I would still probably go and look at the submission criteria, note them down, and maybe think about applying next year or the year after, when you can really show that that initiative has made an impact.
Lovely. Sherif or Kate, is there anything that either of you'd like to add?
I would like to add something extremely important is linking whatever you are submitting to the business case that your company is, or the point that you are raising it up, and then you link the results by the return of investment. So when you are really having the language which is matching with the strategic objectives, you are really addressing the context in a very professional manner, and also you are giving a very good tangible results that can be showing that you did really an impact to the business itself for your organization.
Yeah,
Kate, anything to add there?
I think if there is a current project that's not yet reached its benefits realization stage, I would say keep your powder dry and apply next time, or use it as a learning experience, because generally speaking, it is that we've mentioned it a number of times, it's approach and results, and they're equally weighted, and let some time pass, let those results come through, including the wider impact that Victoria has talked about, the wider impact on the people and the organisation and perhaps the culture as well. I think emerging talent may be a little different in that respect, because of course there's now the 3-year window for application, for submission, but so there could be some recent things that have been started, and it's okay to include those, but just be careful that you're getting that good balance between the weighting on the question with impact as well as action.
Perfect. And actually that leads quite nicely to another question that has come through, and there's a couple actually about the interview part of the process. So I might just address this one quickly, which is, can inputs from the award proposal be adjusted and updated throughout the different phases from the application deadline to the final interview? And then there's another question which asks about the interview process. It's the first time they've heard about it, so they don't know what to expect. So the interview process, as I mentioned earlier, it takes place in March. It's normally a single day where the judges will meet with the 3 or 4 finalists that they have shortlisted. It normally lasts for about an hour, a little bit longer for quality organisation. And it gives you an opportunity to present your entry to the judges and really kind of bring it to life. And what we ask is that you don't embellish it, you don't add tons to it, but you can update the data. So we appreciate that kind of things are constantly changing. You may, by the time the award entries close in January and the interviews in March, you may have an entire quarter of data. You may have more end of year statistics that you weren't able to include in time. So we do allow you to update data and make that slightly more current, but the actual content of the application remains the same for that interview stage, and is then an opportunity to present that to the judges, and they then can ask you questions so that they can really get a sense as to what it is that what the story is that you're telling, really. And we really find that interview stage can really change the course of what the kind of process is looking like. Sometimes the person or the business or the project that's going in kind of with the highest score in the written application ends up, not doing quite so well in that interview process, and vice versa. So it really can change it all, can't it? And Kate, I saw you nodding there. But yeah, so that hopefully that helps a little bit with the process of the application, and also in terms of what you can do with the data.
Can I add something to that, Katie?
Absolutely, yeah.
I was just gonna mention, for any international candidates, if you were shortlisted and you got through to the interview phase, it's just important to note that we do cater for non-English speaking interview process. So you can either bring a translator, and we'll work with that environment, or if we're using Teams and Zoom, they have quite good inbuilt live translator. So don't be put off if English is not a native language, or you don't know English well enough to be able to answer questions in that interview process. We do have ways to make it very inclusive for all nationalities.
Excellent point. Thank you, Victoria. And actually, there's a question that's come through, and I'm not sure if this is related. And it's an anonymous question. So if this was you and you want to elaborate a little bit further, feel free to do so. But it does ask, are there any specific trends on the different category winners statistically over the years? So I'm not sure what kind of trends that's relating to, but one thing I will say, which adds to kind of Victoria's comment, is that inclusion, diversity is hugely, hugely important to us. These are the International Quality Awards. We really encourage international applicants. We do have a huge number of countries represented in the entries that we get through. I think last year we had 27 different countries represented. 40% of our finalists were from outside of the UK. We had first-time winners from Bulgaria, from Brazil, from Pakistan. We had winners from the UAE. In fact, last year, I think only one of the winners was from the UK. So it is a really, really international representation, and we're really, really proud of that. So I don't know if that addresses the specific trends, but certainly in terms of the international representation, it's something that we really, really strive for and we're really proud of. Okay, let's go to a question that we always get a lot of through our Quality Live inbox, and Sherif, you've already alluded to it a little bit earlier, the supporting slides. So this is kind of really the opportunity that applicants have to visualize some of the stuff that they're telling us about. You mentioned as well, Sherif, that sometimes they work best, well, often they work best when they're linked to, so they're referred to in the written application and then signposted to. We don't want to see them overcrowded with extra text that people are trying to get around the word count. But what is the most kind of impactful way that you think people can use those slides to make sure that they really enhance what it is that their written application is telling us? And Sherif, we'll go to you first for that one.
Yeah, I would add to what I have said before. That is, I would just quote my colleague, the statement of storytelling. You need to tell a story. So when you are explaining your slides in a very like narrative way, so you are telling a true story, and every submission or every entry has their own story, and we are as judges, we are really learning in all these stories, and we are also having the curiosity to know more about it. So we will have enough time to ask you more questions, so you will be able to add more additional informations. What has been really been used this slide, it's for you to organize your thoughts, how you are really presenting, to show the most significant evidences in all the categories. Make a slide for every category. It's a 6 slides, so each one is straightforward. It's not really like complicated. And when you have it being simple, and you have also within 15 minutes, as normally that we allow them, it gives that you are knowing like proper presentation, proper time management, and also the minimum basics for communications.
Great. Kate, would you like to add to that?
Yes, reinforcing the point that Sherif made about keeping them simple. So generally one slide to correspond with one question. If it's an important point, put it in the written submission and add any supporting data into the slide. The key message needs to be in the written part. A good example of how you might use a slide to support that would be to make a statement about impact that has been made, and you might say 25% improvement in engagement results from survey engagement, and then in the slide you might have a graph showing the results, showing a little bit more detail over what period, that provides more context. So you've got one simple headline in the written submission, and then a nice graphic or maybe a photograph or something that brings that to life and provides more detail without having to use however many words to describe that, but include in the written submission a reference to slide 1 or whatever it is, so that as a judge, if you can visualize what a judge is receiving, there'll be a written response and a PowerPoint presentation slides, and we'll be reading that and it will refer to, okay, I now need to open that up, back to that, and so forth. So think about your customers being the judges in this situation, and making that process as easy as possible so that we can see the great work that you've done, and that it's really obvious. I would say don't include links to websites or other things in those PowerPoints, because that's that's expecting and taking you off on a tangent. So don't include links. I've seen PowerPoint, the slides that have just include copies of certificates, and that that doesn't add anything. Think about what am I adding? What extra detail? What extra sparkly dust am I adding by including a slide? So photographs, images, charts, graphs are all fantastic from that perspective. Maybe also testimonial, if you've got a testimonial from a colleague, customer, line manager. So you might say in the written submission, really positive feedback from whomever, and then you could put an extract of that testimonial or feedback in the slide. Again, an example of how you might use the two together, headline in the written and some nice supporting detail without it being something that's too much to read. Yeah, I think those were my main points on slides.
Fantastic. And actually that last point with regards to the testimonial addresses another question that's come through around kind of if some of the impact is behavioural change. So things like trust, reporting culture, transparency, actually having that feedback can be great examples of evidence. It doesn't always have to be numbers. Victoria, did you want to add anything to that?
No, not really. I think just like what Kate said, you may know what your submission is talking about inside out because you've obviously lived it, but the judges are coming at it from a completely blank slate. So use your slides, link it through to your written submission to really aid the judges in understanding what you are trying to tell us. And I think the advice around a lot of us are visual communicators. So if you can use infographics, if you can use, if you have dashboards, anything that kind of uses pictures and photos to tell your story from the written submission, that really helps us to get clear on what it is that you're selling us, basically, and what those, like I say, what I keep coming back to, what those benefits, what that impact and those results have really been.
Fab, thank you. And I think also that some feedback that we actually had from a couple of entrants in the past is get a critical friend to review your entry. So somebody from beyond the quality team, but beyond the quality function that doesn't work with you, that doesn't know the ins and outs of what you do, ask them to read it and see if it makes sense to them. Because although obviously you'll be submitting it to a panel of experts, they're all from different sectors, different backgrounds, different countries. They all are coming at it from completely different perspectives. So sometimes that can be really, really useful for people. I'm going to address the question that's come in about the cost to enter, and then we'll kind of come to each of you for kind of a final thought on why people should do this. They've sat through an hour's worth of questions. We've kind of talked around the process, but we'll come to you for a final, what's the point in all of this? What makes it worthwhile? So I'll give you a minute to think about that whilst I just address the cost. So the individual categories, emerging talent, quality professional of the year, are free to enter. So there is no cost to apply for those. There are eligibility criteria. So just to reiterate that the emerging talent, you need to be within the first 3 years of your quality career. And we do due diligence on that to check. So don't try and sneak it in. You need to be within the first 3 years of your quality career. And to be eligible for Quality Professional of the Year, you must be a chartered member or chartered fellow. If you've been thinking about applying for a regrade, you can start that process now, as long as you're done in time for your entry to be judged. Not necessarily to be shortlisted, but to be judged. If we know that that process is underway, as long as it's completed by March, you will still be eligible, but you must be chartered. The judges will not look, they will not be given your entries if you do not meet those criteria. So it's an immediate kind of disqualification. And we will feed that back to you so that you are aware of that, but we are really, really strict on that. So those entries are free to enter. CQI volunteering impact is of course free to enter. It's to champion volunteers of the CQI who are giving up their time to drive the profession forward and to really represent the institute. So that is also free to enter. For all other categories, there is a set fee of £299 plus VAT. As the programme is delivered in the UK, VAT will be charged on all entries. So it's £299 plus VAT per entry. So if you apply to more than one category, you pay per entry. It's not just one entry fee and you can apply for as many as you want. So please do take the time to review the criteria, make sure that you're eligible. We do not want to see businesses paying to enter a category that they're not eligible for. We can't offer refunds on that kind of thing. So once you've submitted it, it's there to be judged. So do check out the criteria. It's all on the website, it's all available. If you have any questions about it, you're welcome to contact us and we can give you direction as to which category might be the most appropriate. If you do apply to more than one category, make sure that you tailor your entry to the category. Do not copy and paste. We will know. We had a situation last year where somebody applied on behalf of two individuals and they forgot to change the pronouns when they were copying and pasting. So it became very apparent that it was just a repeated entry being submitted more than once, which fortunately didn't cost them anything because it was for one of the free categories, but it needs to be an individual tailored entry. And the other thing that the judges and I spoke about very briefly before we joined the call is the use of AI. So I will touch upon that briefly. We know that, as we've mentioned, it's an international awards. Some people do use AI to aid their translation of their entry into English. We know that sometimes people might use it to condense the word count, condense what you're trying to say into an eligible word count. We are not completely against the use of AI. However, the judges will have their own, I'm trying to think of the word now, my mind has gone completely blank. The judges will have their own discretion, is the word that I'm going for. So if they feel that an entry has been AI assisted to the point that it is not original work, they will be able to flag that, and we will then run through AI detection tools to kind of work out whether or not it's an eligible entry or not. So please do use AI sensibly if you are using it. Please do make sure that you are eligible for the categories that you are entering. But please do apply. It's a fantastic process. It can be really, really beneficial. And I will give the last word to our judges on that. So Kate, we will come to you and then you're off the hook because I feel like I keep coming to you today. But Kate, why should people apply for an International Quality Award?
It's a great question. And I think for me, the answer is because it's a wonderful learning opportunity. So it drives a reflective approach. So reflecting on what's been done, what's been achieved, extracting learning from that can be shared with whomever. So quality team, quality organisation. So that process of collectively reflecting, extracting learning, and then learning from the judges, the feedback from the judges, learning from the benchmarking against the criteria that are embedded within the questions within the criteria. So for me, it's a wonderful learning opportunity, and of course the opportunity to celebrate success, whether that's every entry comes as a result of some level of success, doesn't it? Something that somebody wants to shout about, and that opportunity to celebrate, whether it's just internally through the reflective process and then going through the awards process leading up to potentially third-party recognition as well.
Wonderful, thank you, Kate. Victoria?
Yeah, my answer is the same as Kate's. My advice would be and the reason, one of the best reasons for submitting an entry is to go through that reflective experience, use it as a learning experience, particularly if you get different people involved in supporting the submission as well. It's a great way to have that reflection and to celebrate all the really good work that you've done. Being shortlisted and, should you win it, should be seen as the cherry on the top. It's about the application process, and it really is, very, very rewarding for a lot of people and teams that do it. So yeah, that's one of my main reasons. And yeah, it's a brilliant way to recognize the journey that you've been through. Even if you're not shortlisted and you don't win the award, it's just a really good experience to go through. I think everybody should do it at least once in their professional journey, because there's a lot of people do learn a lot from it and find it, like I say, find it very beneficial and just a really good experience overall.
Wonderful, thank you, Victoria. And Sherif?
I would add something would be to your interest that it's beside the learning experience that you learn from the feedback. It's a learning experience for the whole process that you can do a local quality award inside your company, so you can promote the same idea locally and you can empower more people. I myself did this after immediately I finished the last year. I made it and I managed to make a very wide impact because I'm working full time for a full client. I don't want to mention their name, and we have seen how recognitions is making so impactful and so much like reflections on the whole people. Even we are investing to the asking the people is to do the same locally, where they have been operating. And in the statement that I would like to leave the people to remember is recognized employee performs better. So recognitions is so much important to everybody, and it's absolutely important to pay attention and make a try and get all these useful experience.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Huge thank you to Kate, to Sherif, to Victoria for joining, for sharing the benefit of your judging experience with those who have attended today. Of course, thank you to everybody who has joined us on the call. There will be a recording of this available on our website later on this week. So if there's anything that you want to kind of revisit or go back to, you will be able to do so. There are some other frequently asked questions also listed on the website, so do have a look at those. And of course, the team here, myself and Leslie, are available. If you do have any questions, pop us an email, internationalqualityawards@quality.org, and we will do our best to help you. Particularly if you're not sure which category is the best category to apply for, we can help you with that kind of stuff. We can help you with anything that you need to make sure that you prepare the best application possible. And we look forward to welcoming your entries and hopefully to celebrating with all of you as champions of the profession at Quality Live on the 25th of June. Thank you all very much.